What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. My name is Chris, and in today's video, we're going to talk about money wounds and where these beliefs that hold us back come from and what we need to do in order to let them go and create our own. Because let's just start off real simple here. Essentially, anything that you believe in life comes from the belief of the people who raised you and that you were around. So whether this is your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your grandparents, whoever was raising you and you were around the most is whose belief you've essentially acquired and made into your own belief. Because if you think about it, like, you have zero beliefs until you start to like wake up, or you come to this sense of like, I don't believe that, or those beliefs that I've embodied aren't mine. There's somebody else's, and those beliefs, though I was raised to them and I have created those beliefs within me, I'm letting them go and I'm recreating my own beliefs. And it's wild enough, like, I've done this. I think I'm 34 now. I did this at like 27. I had this massive wake up where I was like, that's not me. Those are my parents' beliefs. Who am I? And since then, I've been figuring out who I am. But, until I watched this podcast yesterday by Jay Shetty and I think something Lewis Howes, essentially what I learned was like, I haven't reconstructed my internal beliefs around money. Though I know what money is to me, I'm still carrying my dad's money wound 100%. I'm like, ooh, that's not mine. But it's embodied in me, and I haven't done the work to release it and replace it. So what I did from this podcast, and I'll link that below in the bio, because essentially what I'm going to do is speak to you what I learned from it and what resonated and simplify it, and then you can go back and watch it if you want the details. But number one was, these questions are great, and you should ask yourself these questions about money if you want to like evaporate your old belief on money and like recreate a new one. Because I was doing that this morning and I was like, this is powerful. This feels good. So number one is, when you give and receive money, how do you feel? And I was like, whoa, and I'll share my personal ones too, just to relate and help you guys like kind of create your own answers. Is number one, when I give and receive money, I felt anxious. That's an old belief I'm creating, is like, I felt anxious because I'd be like, what am I going to do with all this money? And then when it goes out, I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do without all that money? Like it just had like scarcity, right? And I don't believe that is me, because I am a firm believer that there is a ton of money floating around, and you can get it from anyone at any time, at any place, anywhere. Like, you just have to go like look for it. More or less be a magnet to it and allow it to flow to you. But I was like, man, there's this old belief, definitely from my father. And you got to identify who yours is from too. And if you can't, no worries, but just identify its source. I think a big belief that my dad and maybe even my mother gave to me was this, like, money, it's scarce. It comes and goes. And when it's here, we got to figure out what we got to do with it. And when it goes, we got to figure out how to live life without it. That's not me. We got to let that one go. So my new belief around money is, and it's good to replace these as soon as you can, is like, when I have money, I have so much money, and I love the joy and the happiness and the tranquility that having money brings me. And then when I spend it, or when I give it to others, I'm giving that joy, that happiness and tranquility to others to experience too, because that's the feelings money overall creates in my life and the lives around people around me. Just saying that feels so good. So recreate, how you feel when money comes and goes. And you can even like pause this video. That might even be best for you, Number two, this is most important, is identify where your story with money comes from. So for instance, like I said, I don't know, dribbled that one in there on that first one, is like, a big story around money is like, I always saw my parents fighting about not having enough money or how we were going to spend money. And even as a kid, like, for instance, I remember wanting to play golf on the weekends. I was really into golf. And I remember there being the conversation, or hearing my parents talk about it. I was like, do we have enough money to take him golfing? And if we do, like, we gotta make sure you get the cheapest rate. Like, everything was the cheapest, right? So then, in a sense, like, you pull that back to self, and you got to do this to yourself, is you got to understand the story and then pull it back to how you felt when you were hearing that. It's like, if anything, if money's being spent on me, I feel this sense of guilt or shame for wanting to have fun and enjoy the pleasures of life. But as a kid, like, there was the guilt and shame because I heard my parents saying that there might not be enough money and he might not be able to do what he wants to do. Or we might not be able to accommodate him because we don't have enough. And then, so you take the key words there as like, not being able to do what you want to do, not experiencing joy, and not having enough money. And that is a belief that, once again, was kind of built into me, but not one that I believe. Because honestly, I think I drive my parents crazy or my dad crazy. I'm like, there's so much money out there. You just have to go have fun, and you have to just like create it and attract it. And he's like, oh no, you gotta save for rainy days, like. But you gotta understand like what those beliefs and stories are that your parents had around like beliefs brought into you. Essentially, it's like, what is your parents' story around money? And when you were a kid, what did you see them talk about, and how was money talked about? Was it like this scarce thing that only came in every now and then, and when it came in, you had to really be wise with it, and when it went out, you had to be really wise with what you did? Or is it this thing that is always there and abundantly there, and it creates like, happiness, joy, tranquility, comfort, relaxation? Like what are those feelings with money? And even like identifying from your parents is huge, because once again, those beliefs are the beliefs that are put onto you. Number 3, this question was my favorite. I actually love this question. It 100% pulled me into the understanding of how I felt about money. This is the key. And if you made it this far, you're gonna recreate a whole new money feeling in your life. Take a sip of Celsius for this one. So imagine money walked in the door. Whoop, here comes money. It's a guy or a girl. It's like your auntie or your uncle. Put it to an avatar. It walks in that door. How are you gonna act? Like, what are you gonna do? Or imagine money's at a party. You're at the same party. How are you gonna treat it? What does money look like to you? Like, who is that person? Create an avatar around money. And whenever I did this, for example, we'll give you the full cycle of what I did with this is, money walks in the door. I thought about it as a friend that I hadn't seen in like 3 months. And I'm like, hey, what's up? And even like, I will go to the details of this. I'm like, hey, what's up, money? Good to see you. I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for coming. Sit on down. Let me accommodate you. Let me make you feel comfy in my home. Like, I was treating it like something I hadn't seen in several months. And I wanted to love and embrace it, and like hear its stories and hear its journey and welcome it back. And like, is there anything that you need? Like, how can I make you feel most comfortable? And I'm like, that's crazy, because I'm going through slow season right now and I haven't seen money in a few months. And I'm like, interesting. So I'm like, we got to recreate this belief. Instead of the person that I'm, is coming in that door I haven't seen in months, how about the person I saw yesterday or last week? Like, why is there got to be 3 months? So you're like, and then if you think about money at a party, is that somebody that you'd be like, hey, let's go walk around. Let's walk around with money. I want to introduce you to all my friends. Are you going to be, hanging out with that person? Or are you going to be avoiding that person? That's somebody that you talk about behind others' backs, or is somebody that you essentially are like, I want you to meet everybody in this room, So I think if money walked in, or if money walked in your door, who did it look like? How would you treat it? How would you interact with it? Or seeing it at a party? Is it somebody you would avoid, somebody you'd want to walk around and showcase with? Because all this is doing is taking all your beliefs that are kind of in thin air and applying it to an avatar of a person that is relatable to this experience, that you could be like, oh my God, I totally avoid money and I talk shit about their back and I wouldn't want to be around it. Or the person who's over here like, oh my God, I love money. I want to introduce it to everybody. And I'd love to just like cater it and showcase it around. And, I want everybody to like understand what it is and how money can help them. Like, it's this person, it's this being of light that just shares, its essence and creates accessibility for everybody, And then in pulling this all together, like, essentially, and I did this journaling this morning, is like, I wrote down all my old beliefs about money, in a sense that I was like, what is a good word for, like, structurally releasing it? Because I was like, once again, this is something I realized. I was like, I haven't really like dove into my beliefs about money and how to recreate them, though I have my beliefs, but I also have my old parents' beliefs. So what I did was I wrote down, my old beliefs, and was like, money, when I think about money, it used to give me anxiety because there'd be a lot coming in and a lot going out at once, and I wanted to make sure I spent it correctly and I had enough left over for when it wasn't there. And in a sense, as a whole, it was a scarce space. And it's crazy to even look back and identify my old patterns and be like, oh my God, there's times in my life when I have like $20,000 coming in at once, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with all this or how to spend this properly. And then there's moments where I have like, $5,000 and $10,000 going out at once too, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope this comes back. And like, that's the anxiety that is the belief system from my parents. And then it's like pulling it back, and even thinking about it, like, I don't believe that at all. Like, honestly, my deepest belief is there's plenty of money out there, and like, all you got to do is put out a sign for it to come to you and it'll come to you. And that's like my newest belief is like, I attract money. I'm a money magnet, and there's so much money out there, and it's all meant for me to find it and capture it and bring it back to me, you know? Like that is what I let go of that old one and replaced it with that, you know? And then even like in a sense of like, in saying that, if I've recreated like when money walks in the door, like when money walks in the door, I'd be like, yo, what's up? Good to see you again. Like, tell me your stories. How have you been? Where have you been going? Like, what opportunities and experiences have you lived? Like, I'd be excited to hear about what money has done and how what's towards money could bring to me. You know, it's just like this expansiveness energy with it. It's abundant. And then in a sense of it all, it's just like recreating those stories just helped me feel more abundant, because I think something that happens too is like we get in this, it's in that podcast really teed it up. Once again, that'll be in the link below. It's like when you're feeling knocked down, beaten down, and you're in this like scarce mindset, it's really hard to feel abundant. And like people would be like, oh, just, you know, feel abundant. Like, oh, let go of scarcity. And you're like, I have every reason to be scarce right now, you know? But it's like the small wins are what's going to get you out of it. Number one is shifting your old belief. It's like, what was that old belief? What do I want it to be now? And then number two, I had 11:11 on the clock when I saw that. That's cool. And then number two is like, when money walks in the door, how are you going to treat it? It's the same thing. When money comes into your life, how are you going to treat it? You know, like when I get paid now, I'm going to be like, thank you so much, and like feel into it and be like, man, I'm excited. What are we going to do? Like, you know, money, where do you want to go? And think about that. Like, even as money as a person, like, you know, it comes in your door, it sits down, and then you're like, yo, money, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What are we going to do today? Like, how can we both experience the joy and like see how that brings abundance to it? Because think about this, even if you found a penny, like, are you going to treat a penny like it's worthy, or are you going to just let it go? Because even that is money, and you need to value it. You need to value all forms of it. And I think that's a huge key. So looks like that sun's about to pop out. Guys, this has been a fun episode. And if you like these episodes, we can definitely do more. Go ahead and comment below. And if you guys haven't already, like, subscribe to this video, and let me know your money wounds and how you're fixing them, because I think that's huge to identify them and to fix them. And if you start fixing them, you can start to see the results from them too. So peace out, y'all. Have a good day.